The vast emptiness of space stretched in every direction, a sea of black dotted with distant stars. The alien exploration ship Starseeker drifted silently, its crew scanning the void for anything of interest. Their sensors pinged. Something was out there. Captain Vex, a tall, scaled being with sharp golden eyes, leaned over the control panel. "Report," he ordered. "Derelict vessel, sir," the science officer replied. "No energy readings, no life signs." The crew exchanged glances. Derelict ships were rare this far from any known civilization. And this one, it didn't match any known design. "Bring us closer," Vex commanded. As the Starseeker approached, the derelict ship came into view. It was large, its hull battered and scarred as if something had clawed at it from the inside. The name on its side was faded, but one word was still barely visible. "Terror. Human," the science officer muttered. "This is a human ship." A tense silence filled the room. Humans were rare in this sector. Some said they were dangerous, others claimed they were extinct. "Scan it," Vex ordered. The crew activated their deep scan systems, searching for any signs of what might have happened. The machines hummed, processing data. Then suddenly, they pinged again. "Captain, we are picking up a signal." Vex frowned. "A distress call?" "No, sir, it's just a whisper." The crew listened as the audio feed crackled to life. A voice, soft and broken, barely more than a breath, spoke in perfect human language. "Don't let them hear you." The words sent a chill through the room. The science officer checked the readings again. "That's impossible. There's no power source, no systems online. That signal, it shouldn't exist." Vex stared at the derelict ship. Something was wrong. "Prepare a boarding team," he said. "We're going in." The boarding. The airlock hissed as the team stepped onto the human ship. Their suits' lights cut through the darkness, revealing a nightmare. The walls were covered in deep scratches, not from tools but from something with claws. Dark stains marked the floors. Old blood. "Stay sharp," Vex ordered, his hand resting on his weapon. They moved deeper into the ship, their scanners flickering. The whisper had stopped, but the silence was worse. Then, thump. The sound came from above. The crew froze, their lights darting upward. Nothing moved. "Probably just debris," one of them muttered, but his voice shook. They reached the bridge. The computers were dead, the screens shattered. But in the center of the room, a single terminal flickered weakly. Vex stepped closer. The screen glitched, then words appeared. "You shouldn't be here." Before anyone could react, the science officer's scanner screamed, a sudden, sharp alert. He looked down, his blood turning to ice. "Captain, we're not alone." The scanner showed movement, something big, shifting in the shadows just beyond their lights. Then from the darkness a new whisper came. Not from the ship, but from something else. "We hear you." The escape panic erupted. The crew turned, weapons raised, but the shadows moved too fast. Something scurried along the ceiling, something with too many limbs. "Back to the ship," Vex roared. They ran, their boots pounding against the metal floors. Behind them something laughed, a wet, gurgling sound that wasn't human. The airlock was just ahead. The crew slammed into it, frantically sealing the door behind them. As it hissed shut, something slammed against the other side. Once, twice, then stopped. Silence. Back on the Starseeker, the crew gasped for breath. Vex looked at the derelict ship on the view screen. "Get us out of here," he ordered. "Now." The engines roared to life. But as they pulled away, the science officer's scanner pinged one last time. The whisper returned. Clearer now, desperate. "You woke them up." Then, the derelict ship's lights flickered on, and something inside moved. The Starseeker lurched as its engines roared to life, hurling the ship away from the derelict human vessel. Captain Vex gripped his chair, his golden eyes locked on the view screen, where the dead ship's lights had just flickered on. "Impossible," the science officer whispered. "That ship had no power." Then the comms crackled, a voice, human, but broken, glitching, like a dying machine. Turn, back, or they will follow. The crew froze. That wasn't the whisper from before. This was new, and it was warning them. Vex opened his mouth to speak. Bang. Something hit the hull. The thing on the ship. The crew spun toward the sound. It came from the lower decks. Did we take damage? One asked. The science officer checked the scanners. His hands shook. Captain, there's something inside the ship. Silence. Then, thud, thud, thud. Slow. Heavy. Moving. Vex grabbed his weapon. Lock down the lower decks, now! Alarms blared as emergency doors slammed shut. The crew listened, hearts pounding. For a moment, nothing. Then, scream! The sound of metal tearing echoed through the ship. The science officer's screen flashed red. Breach in Deck 3. Door seals failing. Vex's blood ran cold. Nothing should have been able to break through those doors. Get us to the escape pods, he ordered. But as they ran, the lights above them flickered, and in the flashes, they saw shadows moving along the walls, too fast, too many limbs. The truth in the data. They reached the control room, sealing themselves inside. The science officer frantically pulled up the ship's logs, and his breath caught. Captain, the human ship wasn't just damaged. He turned, face pale. It was eaten from the inside. The screen displayed images of the derelict's interior. Torn, walls, shattered doors, and nests. Something had been living in there. Then, a new alert flashed. Life form detected. Deck 2. Life form detected. Deck 4. Life form detected. Bridge ventilation. Vex slowly looked up. The air vent above them rattled. The last message of voice suddenly boomed through the ship. Not the glitching human one, but something older, deeper, like a recorded warning. If you are hearing this, you have made contact with Species 01 Cetin. They are not natural, or not. They are not alive. They are mimics. They learn. They adapt. And once they hear you, they become you. The crew stared at each other in horror. Then the voice whispered one last thing. Do not scream. The vent cover burst open. The vent cover clattered to the floor. For one heartbeat, silence. Then something dropped into the control room. The crew spun, weapons raised, but saw nothing. Just shadows. Where is it? Vex hissed. Then the science officer screamed. His body jerked violently, his spine arching at an impossible angle, his jaw unhinged, too wide, too many teeth, before his entire form rippled like liquid. The thing wearing his skin smiled. Don't be afraid, it said, in the science officer's voice, but wrong, like it was learning how to speak. Vex fired. The blast tore through the creature's chest, but no blood came out, just black ooze, and the wound sealed shut before their eyes. The mimic tilted its head. That hurt. Then it moved. The hunt begins. Chaos erupted. The crew scattered as the mimic flowed across the floor like living shadow. One alien fired. The blast went straight through it, melting the wall behind. It learns, Vex shouted. It adapts. A terrible screech echoed through the ship as the PA system suddenly activated on its own. That same glitching human voice returned. They copy what they hear. Stop talking. Stop breathing. The crew froze. The mimic stopped too. Its head twitched, listening. Then the lights went out. The darkness speaks. Emergency glow strips flickered to life, casting the room in eerie green. Vex counted his crew in the dim light. 4. There should be 5. Where's Jex? Someone whispered. Wet crunch came from the corner. They turned. Jex stood there, or something wearing Jex. Its mouth stretched into a grin full of needle teeth. I'm right here, it said in Jex's voice. The real Jex's mangled corpse lay at its feet. The 2 mimics charged. The desperate plan Vex grabbed the emergency plasma torch from the wall. They heal fast, then we burn them. The crew formed a circle, back to back, torches flaring. The mimics circled just outside the light, their forms shifting, sometimes alien, sometimes almost human. One lunged. A crew member screamed as black tendrils wrapped around his leg. Vex severed them with the torch. The tendrils writhed on the floor before dissolving into smoke. The human PA voice crackled again. They fear heat, but they're learning. Hurry. Then, a new sound, scratching from every vent in the room. More were coming. The sacrifice. We'll never make it to the escape pods, Vex realized. The youngest crew member, barely more than a cadet, looked at the captain, then at the ship's self-destruct controls. I'll hold them off, she said, grabbing 2 torches. Before anyone could stop her, she slammed the emergency bulkhead button, sealing herself in the control room with the mimics. Through the window, they saw her stand defiant as the creatures advanced. Her last words were, "Burn in hell." Then she overloaded the torches. The aftermath. The explosion rocked the Starseeker. Vex and the 2 survivors staggered toward the last escape pod. When the ship's computer suddenly spoke in that same glitchy human voice, "You won't make it. They're in the walls, only one way out." A map flashed on screen showing the cargo bay. "There's nothing there," a crew member cried. Then they heard it. A new sound coming from the cargo bay. A sound that didn't belong on an alien ship, a human engine powering up. The escape pod door hissed shut just as the Starseeker's corridors erupted behind them. Screeching metal, inhuman howls, and worst of all, mimicked screams in their crewmates' voices. Vex slammed the launch button. For 3 heartbeats, silence. Then, the pod jerked violently, throwing them against the walls. Warning lights flashed as something heavy landed on the roof. Thud, rape, claws digging into metal. The youngest survivor whimpered. Vex pressed a finger to his lips. The pod's internal speakers crackled. "Don't move." That same glitching human voice, but now it was inside their escape pod. The impossible choice. The pod's monitor flickered to life, showing the cargo bay camera feed. There, amidst the smoke, sat a sleek human dropship, its engines glowing hot. The human voice it's coming from that ship, the science officer realized. A new message scrolled across the screen in jagged text. They can't mimic machines. Only flesh. Get to the human ship. The pod shuddered again. A dent appeared in the ceiling. Vex made a decision. We're jumping to the cargo bay. But the mimics will follow us either way. He typed commands frantically. I'm setting the pod to detonate after we exit. The survivors exchanged glances. It was suicide, but it was their only chance. The dash through hell, the pod doors exploded open. The cargo bay was a nightmare. Twisted metal, flickering lights, and shadows that moved wrong. The human dropship sat 30 meters away. An impossible distance. Run. Vex roared. They sprinted, their boots slipping in black ooze that twitched underfoot. Behind them, the escape pod detonated in a fireball, taking at least 2 mimics with it. Then the youngest crew member screamed. Vex turned just in time to see the floor swallow the alien whole, a mimic disguised as the deck plating. The survivors didn't stop running. The ghost ship. The human dropship's ramp lowered automatically as they approached. The interior was dark. Until flickering holograms materialized, human soldiers frozen mid-action, their faces locked in silent screams. A new message appeared above the control panel. They came from the dark between stars. We thought we could study them. We were wrong. The science officer gasped. This was a military science vessel. The humans captured these things. The ship's engines roared to life on their own. The last hologram, a human captain, pointed urgently at the closing ramp. Behind them, 3 figures emerged from the smoke, all wearing Vex's face. The truth in the data as the dropship launched. The main screen displayed a classified human file, Subject 017. Analysis origin, unknown, possibly extra-dimensional. Behavior, mimics then consumes any biological life weakness, cannot replicate synthetic material containment protocol, absolute radio. Silence. The science officer suddenly understood. The whispers. The human AI was trying to warn us without speaking directly. The mimics can't copy machines, but they learn from living voices. Vex stared at the approaching mimics on the rear camera. Then why help us now? The screen changed. Because you're carrying something they want. A medical scan overlay appeared, highlighting Vex's own nervous system. Threads of black ooze swam in his bloodstream. The final message, the dropship's AI activated the self-destruct sequence. Minutes to detonation. The holographic human captain reappeared, mouthing silent words as text translated. There's a neural purge chamber in the rear. It will burn the infection out if you survive. Vex looked at his last crew member, then at the growing black veins under his own skin. The science officer grabbed his arm. Captain, no. Vex made his choice. Vex staggered into the neural purge chamber as the dropship hurtled through space. The walls were lined with human warnings in red. Warning: neural scorching protocol survival rate, 0.3%. The science officer pounded on the sealed door. Captain, there has to be another way. Vex didn't answer. Black tendrils now pulsed visibly beneath his skin, creeping toward his eyes. The chamber's AI spoke in that same glitched human voice, but different now. Younger. Female. Brace for consciousness unraveling. The world exploded in white fire. The memories that weren't his Vex's mind shattered. He saw through 1,000 eyes at once. A human research station orbiting a dead star. Scientists cheering as they captured the first mimic in a containment field. The moment it escaped, slithering into a vent, copying a janitor's face perfectly. The panicked orders to nuke the station. But it was too late. The mimics had already stowed away on evacuation ships. Worst of all, he saw the truth about the voice. Young human engineer named Lieutenant Kara Vales, who sacrificed herself to merge her consciousness with the ship's AI. Her final act, to warn others, her voice screamed in his skull, "They're not from space. They're from time. They're what's left at the end of everything." The thing inside him fights back. Vex's body convulsed as black ooze burst from his pores. It hissed as the purge lasers seared it away, but the infection was learning, adapting. The chamber's sensors flashed red. Warning, subject 0017. Developing radiation. Resistance. Kara's AI voice became urgent. It's using your DNA to evolve. We need to. The ship suddenly lurched. Alarms blared. The science officer's panicked voice came over the comms. Captain, one of them. It's flying the Starseeker wreckage after us. On the monitor, Vex saw the impossible. The ruined alien ship moving, with precise maneuvers. Its controls operated by a dozen mimic limbs extruded into the consoles, and it was gaining. The second sacrifice. The science officer made a decision. Kara, he said, can you transfer the captain's consciousness like you did yours? A pause. Then, yes. But I'll need a living neural host. Without hesitation, the officer strapped himself into the co-pilot's chair. Do it. Agonizing seconds passed. Vex's screams echoed through the ship as his mind was ripped in two. His infected body collapsing in the purge chamber, while his consciousness flooded into the officer's brain. The officer's eyes flashed gold. Vex was in there now, sharing space with another soul. Kara's voice was faint now. I'll hold them off. Go. With her last strength, she activated the dropship's experimental warp drive, just as the mimic-controlled Starseeker opened fire. The jump into darkness. The ship tore through dimensions in a scream of twisted physics. When the light faded, they floated above a new horror, a derelict human fleet stretching as far as sensors could see. Thousands of ships, all dark, all whispering the same warning on endless loop. But the true nightmare was the planet below. A once blue world now covered in pulsating black biomass. The Mimic's home colony. And it was growing. The shared mind of Vex and the science officer realized the terrible truth. This wasn't an invasion, it was an infestation, and Earth was patient zero. The warp drive sputtered as the dropship limped toward the derelict human fleet. Static hissed through the speakers, then coalesced into a chorus of whispers from thousands of dead ships. Turn back. They're listening. Vex, now sharing the science officer's body, gripped the controls with shaking hands. His golden eyes flickered with the officer's consciousness fighting beneath the surface. Then the sensors screamed. The black planet below pulsed, and a swarm of mimic ships detached from its surface, each one a grotesque fusion of flesh and metal, shaped like the vessels they'd consumed, and they were heading straight for them. The fleet of the damned. The dropship's damaged AI flickered to life with Kara's voice, but corrupted now, cutting in and out. Find the Memphis. Captain's log. Holds the key. A navigation marker appeared, highlighting a massive battleship drifting at the fleet's center. Its hull bore deep claw marks, but one section remained pristine, a vault door marked with a fading human insignia. As they docked, the merged Vex officer entity realized two terrible truths. The officer's consciousness was fading. Vex's mind was consuming his. The vault wasn't designed to keep things out, but to keep something in the captain's log. The vault hissed open, revealing a nightmare frozen in time. A human captain's skeleton fused to the command chair walls, covered in frantic equations about temporal anchors, a single intact data core glowing red. When Vex touched it, the room shifted. Suddenly, he stood beside the living captain, a grizzled woman with dead eyes, as she recorded her final message. This is Captain Elise Riggs of the Earth battleship Memphis. We thought we could weaponize them. We were wrong. They don't just mimic life, they mimic reality itself. The projection gestured to a swirling black hole on the view screen. That's not a natural phenomenon. It's a wound in time. And whatever comes through it isn't from our universe. Then the recording glitched, showing the same captain but different, her eyes pitch black, smiling with too many teeth. Join us. The convergence is coming. The second infection. The vault door slammed. Shut behind them. The dropship's AI screamed through the comms. They're in the walls, they've always been here. The Memphis's lights flickered to life, revealing the horrible truth. The entire battleship was alive. Conduits pulsed like veins. Control panels breathed. And the walls were watching them. Vex's stolen body began to convulse as the officer's final consciousness surfaced one last time. Captain, they're not invading, he gasped. They're calling their god. Then his eyes turned black. The awakening. The infected Vex officer entity stood abruptly, movements now too smooth, too perfect. It spoke with a voice that wasn't human or alien anymore. We, remember now, we are the harbingers, and the convergence begins. Outside, the derelict fleet's engines suddenly activated, every ship turning toward the black hole. The AI made a desperate play, triggering the Memphis's self-destruct. As the countdown flashed, the corrupted Vex entity smiled. You cannot kill what exists outside time. Then the entire battleship warped, vanishing into the black hole. Just as the mimic swarm reached the dropship. The dropship shuddered as the mimic swarm enveloped it, their tendrils slithering across the hull like a living black tide. Inside, the last surviving crew member, a wounded engineer, crouched in the shadows, gripping a malfunctioning plasma torch. Then the ship's AI terminal flickered. Kara's voice emerged, barely audible beneath the static. Initiate. Protocol Phoenix. The engineer's blood ran cold. That was no standard command. A new file unlocked on the console. A video log labeled Final Transmission. Earth. The last broadcast. The screen showed a human woman in a ruined command center, her uniform scorched. Behind her, the sky burned black, through shattered windows. This is Director Shan of Temporal Division, she gasped. The convergence isn't the end, it's a loop. We created the mimics when our time weapons shattered reality. They're our own future selves, twisted by infinite recursion. The video glitched violently. When it stabilized, the director's face had changed, her features subtly wrong. The only way to break the cycle is to collapse the black hole from inside the event horizon. The Memphis carries a singularity core. Her mouth kept moving, but no sound came out. Then, in perfect sync with the corrupted Captain Riggs recording, she mouthed, "Join us." The engineers gamble. The engineers sprinted to the cargo hold where the human dropship's experimental warp drive pulsed erratically. The same tech that had brought them here. A plan formed. Overload the drive inside the black hole, using the Memphis's singularity core as detonator. Kara's AI confirmed. Probability of success, 0.0001%. But probability is a human concept. The mimics don't understand it. Sacrifice. Outside, the swarm began melting through the hull. The final jump. The engineer punched in the coordinates, not for escape, but for a suicidal trajectory straight into the black hole's maw. As the warp drive engaged, 3 nightmarish realizations struck. The mimics weren't attacking anymore. They were herding the ship toward the black hole. The engineer's skin had begun, peeling where tendrils had brushed him. Kara's voice was changing, becoming his own future voice. The ship tore through reality, crashing onto the Memphis ruined deck, now inside the event horizon. Time bent, space twisted, and the corrupted Vex entity stood waiting, its form flickering between 100 different species. "We remember you," it said, in the engineer's own voice. "You always make the same choice, the end of the loop." The engineer lunged for the singularity core, just as the mimics swarmed. In the last second, Kara's AI performed its final function, transferring the engineer's consciousness into the core itself. The detonation sequence initiated. The black hole screamed, and for one infinite moment, the engineer saw the truth. 1,000,000 identical battleships trapped in the loop, 1,000,000 versions of himself reaching for the core, and at the center, a writhing mass that was neither human nor mimic, but something that had always existed. Then, white epilogue. The first whisper silence. Deep space. A pristine human exploration vessel approaches a derelict alien ship. Their scanners ping, a whisper flickers through the void. "Don't let them hear you." The cycle begins anew.